Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the real grade Wing Gundam Zero, and this of course is from New Mobile Report Gundam Wing. As usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those phenomenal people over at HobbyLink Japan, so I will throw a link to this down there in the description. Now let's get this checked out, because this is looking like it's going to be absolutely insane. So first up, rolling right on into the unboxing, and we're greeted with the iconic style that we always get with the real grade boxes. What's pretty cool is we do have the actual transformed version right here up top. We've got that great zoom in on the face right there, looking absolutely intense. And of course, we've got what the finished product looks like right there. Around the side of the box, we've got all of the information. Again, just about the line itself. Some information about the finished kit. It says authentic looks and a mobile structure. By swapping parts, the kit can transform into Neo Bird mode. It also has a feature that changes the shape of the feet, just like in the show. The wing binders around back looking absolutely incredible and looking like they're going to be 1-upping the real grade Tall Geese, maybe 10-upping it. It says here the joints on the wing binders have 5 points of movement, allowing for flexible and dynamic poses. A little bit of a zoom in on the verniers right here, and it looks like they can actually split in multiple ways. It says the thrusters inside the wing binders have a feature where the whole unit can rotate. The nozzles extend and the fins open up, all moving together at the same time. That looks ridiculously intense. Next up, we've got a nice pose right here where the wing is kicking its hips off to one side. I do love it when a kit can do that. It makes them seem like they're really throwing their weight around in the air. What it says here is each hip has 2 swing axes that move independently. This lets the waist bend more, making flexible posing easier. Right beside it then, it says the knee armor and the back of the shin armor move together as the knee bends, allowing for smooth bending motion. Some more information there on the shoulders, which open up. In addition to the cockpit hatch, the chest intake cover can open up too. You can open up the covers on the machine cannons, which seems to have a gimmick which deploys the actual machine cannons within. The twin busters can combine and separate, and it says there is a exclusive real grade features here where the barrels can extend. That is pretty cool. They extend in the center too, so it does look a lot better than just the barrels pulling out in the end. The shield has a movable nose. We've got your usual realistic decals, and then around on the other side, we can see what this kit is going to look like in action. And this pose right here looks insane. The way the wings flare out towards the back, like they're actually taking the impact of the twin buster, is insanely nice. But it's about time to take a look inside of this. So what we've got here is your standard size real grade box, so I assume we're going to be having your standard amount of real grade plastic. We've already got some light grays to separate up the white nicely. There's a lot of the colored aspects, so that is 4 bags of runners in total, so not a crazy amount of plastic inside of the box. Here is the manual. Around in the back we do have the color guide as well as the decal guide. So as real grades tend to have, it's got a whole ton of decals inside of the box. It's also laid out in the way that we love, which means you've got an explanation of all of the various features of the mobile suit while you're moving through it a little bit. Just past the halfway point, we've got some more, so there's a lot of information about the model kit and the mobile suit inside of the manual. When it comes to the amount of runners that we do have in here, that is 11 runners of plastic, not including the beam effects. Alright, so taking a look through the runners now and just grabbing them as I get them. So runner C2 up first, we do have some nice structuring through some of the parts, so it does seem that we have some nice internal detail, which I assume is going to be mildly covered up, but it will make the build absolutely beautiful. This one here is marked 2025, so it doesn't seem like, at least at this point, we're not using any of the older real grade wings. Runner E now, once again, 2025, Wing Zero new for this kit. We've got a bunch of the parts of the internal structure of the buster cannons, at least on this one right here. We've got some of the shield. When it comes to the hand, it looks like we do have multiple hand options. We have a widespread at least. We've got some holding and some fists. Runner F1 again, Wing Zero 2025. Some nice verniers in here, and what immediately caught my eye is this right here. These must be some of the internal structure aspects from those wing binders around back, and the detailing on the mold here looks so good. Runner A1 here is your typical kind of multi-color runner. We've got a whole bunch of nice colors. So all of the yellow from the yellow segments, a nice rich blue, the red extremely vivid as well. But what stands out the most on here is we do have some nice clear parts in that green. Not sure if this does glow under blacklight, I will test that later. But from what I'm seeing here, from these tiny little eyes, they do look like they may just be color separated entirely. Hopefully. Two of this B runner in here, so once again, Wing Zero 2025. Some of the armor off the calf looking nice. The molding on the wing binders is incredibly nice, and we do have some nice pinstripe pan lining on those. Runner F2, this is a clone for the most part from Runner F1. So a lot of verniers up here, those nice segments from the wing binders, but we do have a whole lot more of the actual twin buster rifles in here. These look like they do attach together by a peg in the side, just like you can see there, and so far, looking great. C1 containing a lot of detailed aspects. Again, some nice, beautiful panel lines in the legs. We've got the sides of the head right here looking extremely nice. Those Wing Zero ears, and a large central aspect of the shield. The last of the parts then that make up the model kit, and that is two of this Runner D. Even the inner frame on this kit has crazy detail, so if you like to actually build your kit as an inner frame first, then paint in some of the mechanical detailing, this is going to be one hell of a detailed build for doing that on. Also, if they ever do release some clear armor versions in future, we'll have a very nice inner frame to take a look at. Next up in here, we've got the beam sabers. These are probably the only things reused inside of the kit. As far as I can see, they are the only ones. These are from 2013, and just your standard beams in green. So last up in here, then we've got the decals. Some of these are very unique to say the least. These ones right here caught my eye first. These say Zero System, and as you can see, it's the wing binder kind of as a little bit of a silhouette on there. That is a really nice touch. We've also got those as some tiny white ones right here, and overall, simple, effective. These don't seem to be the old school style that actually take up a whole segment of plastic, but we do have some of these ones right here with the nice shiny little bits on them that are almost fitted looking to some aspects. And of course, all of those nice, iconic, shiny, real grade stickers. So first up, I'm going to be starting the build from the legs up, which is actually the way a real grade is built, funnily enough. However, I am going to build it a little bit different to what it says in the manual, because I want to see what the entire inner frame looks like when put together. Now, one thing I did notice is there isn't a full inner frame here. See this missing section right here? So the armor actually attaches onto the front, finishing off that aspect. So there isn't a full inner frame per se inside of this real grade. But as for that inner frame, this is insane. Just look at the moving and separating aspects inside of this. This is incredibly mechanical. This opening section at the back of the leg, all this splitting mechanism down to the foot. This is for the foot during the transformation to basically swing back and tuck inside of it, but it doesn't really feel like it wants to do it right now. But overall, this knits together in a really fancy sort of way, and not the sort of way I was expecting. Look, there's even a splitting mechanism in the knee right here. This is so intricate. And as for the build, so we start with the build of the foot, and we've got two of these kind of C-clip aspects where the vernier underneath the foot attaches in, and then the ankle joint attaches on top, which gets us this. So there is two moving parts, vernier down on the bottom, and that ankle cup up top. That is an insanely nice design. We then add a toe onto a ball joint like so. The vernier ankle joint section attaches into that, and then the other side just sandwiches on like so. So this is what we get in the end. So we've got the toe up front, the ankle joint right here, and that vernier in underneath. So all of it does move for the transformation, and a little bit of a downwards toe bend. Straight away, we start knitting together parts in an almost kind of collapsing joint system. So what we've got here is half of the knee joint. So this is the rear of the upper leg, and this is the back of the knee. And the way this knits together is really cool. One side of the knee attaches on just like this. Then you have this sliding mechanism for the actual knee armor, and that attaches into it. This is here with the joint opened up, so you can see there's multiple points moving in here. And if you can't actually make out what's going on here, I don't blame you. It is kind of confusing at this point what you are actually building. So this little closing up section just right here, that is what your normal side of a Gundam knee looks like, and the knee armor will pop onto this section. So next up, we're building the hip joint, and that involves some of those keyhole locking joints. One for the actual hip itself, and one for the part that will be attaching into the lower leg. This segment then attaches in ever so nicely, just like so. Again, this is the part that does not have a full inner frame, just like we saw on the other leg. Again, the tiny keyhole locking joints in this are so small. We've got one more right here. Locks in like so, moves out to the back. We hook in from underneath this right here, which is going to be part of the lower leg. Next up, we're working on those iconic wing calves. I will mention there's this little bit of a tab on this that looks like it may be cut offable. It allows the lower leg to move forward and down only ever so slightly like this, but if you chop it off, you'll probably get a lot more range of motion. Probably a little bit of a built-in mod. Then you attach the side of the leg onto what we've built. As you can see, there's a bit of a leg coming together now. The other half of the leg then attaches on just like that. And as you can see, that closes in from the back. And finally, we have something that does resemble an actual finished Gundam inner frame leg. Finally, then you just throw on the leg, or should I say the foot, like so. And there is that complete right leg. There is the left one, so there's the pair. And this separating out of parts is next level incredible gunpla design. This is insane. So moving on up to the waist now, and this is just as intricate we've seen so far. We start with the big old butt flap, attach this double-barreled section into it, which very smartly aligns this way around. So when you slide this secondary aspect, which is going to make up the actual waist area the legs attaches into, it kind of clips in perfectly from underneath like so. Next, you need to make the actual hip joints. So you've got a central aspect, two of these dropping hip mechanisms attach on. They attach on from the side and then slide up from below like so. Then we've got this really cool part that attaches down from above, which, as you can see, completes a peg. And it's not just any peg, it's another keyhole locking one. So this keyhole locks into the butt flap we just built, flips around. We've got an upper section for the ab crunch joint, which attaches up top. Then that all locks together with this piece from the other side. This is so incredibly nicely designed. So we've got the butt flap there with a little bit of movement in it. We've got these up and down moving waist joints, but on top of that, we also have this side-to-side mechanism like we would have seen inside the box that allows the hips to shoot off to one side. So that is so nicely designed. We move straight into the side skirting armor, so just one piece attaches in like so. Again, I am just building the inner frame, so there would be a lot of armor to pop on right now, but this is as far as I'm going at the moment. These then pop into the side right here like so, and then get locked into position from above with this segment right here. So even though some things are a little bit flimsy when going on, just like the butt flap and these, once the final piece goes in, they're rock solid. When it comes to the front skirts, I had to dip on into the light grey C2 runner to get these segments right here because they are an intrinsic part of this actual skirting armor because they are the joint for the attachment of them. So that right there is what one looks like. Well, not complete, but the inner frame of it complete. Attaching those on via ball joints, and they hold on extremely well considering I don't actually have any of the armor attached on yet. And here is the inner frame so far of the waist unit. Again, very nice, and a lot of interesting functional aspects. So we've got the top, which attaches onto the ab crunch, which moves side to side like so, and then we've got this part underneath. Again, these two parts fell off because the armor is what actually holds them in position. So next up in here is the torso, and this is the unit when it is complete. So as you can see, I did have to weave some colors through it because they are actually attached into the inner frame. I could have left the red section off here, but it's holding on this little cockpit bit right here, but it just keeps it a little bit cleaner. Overall, there's tons of nice articulation going on in here. Flip out machine cannons up on the shoulder. They're so tiny, but at the same time, so simple and effective. Some clear parts as well as the one sticker right there inside the chest. We've got some metallic injection silver too. Again, everything inside of this is so nicely engineered. You build up the ab crunch first. You do add in your first bit of color here. It does get locked in here by the joint that attaches in for the side-to-side tilt, so that is why I did add that into the build at this stage. Next up, we've got a neck joint into a side of the body. Both sides of the body attached together just like so, then recessed nicely down as you bend back that ab crunch. We've got an opening little cockpit door right here which pops on. This is kind of just hovering there while you add on the two red side segments. A large section of grey comes in from above. This is going to house the arm joints which we're just about to build, and both of the shoulder joints here. These do have keyhole locking joints again. So we do have a bit of up and down the shoulder as well as forward and back. Next up, we move on to that silver part. This is the first sticker in the build so far. It is just a tiny little circle of green. Metallic reflective pops on like so. Layer on the yellow section that goes around that, and we've got some beautiful clear green that attaches then down from above. Next up, we're attaching those tiny little pivoting and flipping machine cannons up onto what will be the clavicle. This attaches down over the neck area, and we've got two sections of neck armor. Again, the white split into pure white and light grey. Last up, we've got these two little clip sections for the upper armor of the machine cannons, and they attach on from above like so, and there we go, torso complete. Next up then in here is the arms, and as we're moving along through this, we can see that we really do have pretty much a full internal skeleton inside of this. So we've got some wide of the shoulders up here with the beam sabers. This is a little bit on the loose side in there. Got a double jointed movement to the shoulder up here. The arm is separate from the actual shoulder, which will build around that upper section. There goes that beam saber. Definitely a little bit of a loose attachment. And besides that, the rest of the arm is fairly standard. We've got a double jointed elbow and a ball joint for the wrist. So simple enough, but again, beautiful frame. As for the build of the inner frame of the arm, it is really simple at its core. First off, you add that little bit of white shoulder armor. We've got a grey part that attaches in from underneath. Then you build the shoulder joint, just a simple rotating peg joint. Then you attach on the arm structure that holds on the shoulder. That is one side. You pop on the shoulder joint, then that arm shoulder flap, and then sandwich the two pieces together, and you get this pair of joints right here. Simple, effective. The rest of the arm is incredibly simple. You just build up your usual kind of 2-point elbow joint just like so. Attach on this wrist section. We do need a little bit of the A-runner color parts to actually attach the hand onto. The hand is just 2 pieces, front and back. This attaches into the wrist and the shoulder onto the arm. So the frame of the arm, super duper simple. As for the inner frame of the head, it is just 2 pieces. That is the main part of the face followed by the clear green parts. And it is nice to say that the eyes here are fully color separated, which looks intensely cool. It seems like there's some decent light piping going on in here too. Alright, so now onto the final assembly of the inner frame, and we get a good old look at it. So the legs attach on via standard pegs. Again, like I said, the upper leg is not complete with just the inner frame alone. So even though this does somewhat have a full inner frame, it's not an entirely complete inner frame. Once again, a peg joint for the waist. The shoulders are ball and socket, so they click on in like so. There is the second one. And finally then just popping on the head like so. And there we go. There is the real grade Wing Zero's inner frame. Let's take a closer look. Finally, there's the full inner frame of the real grade Wing Zero, and this is impressive. We've got clear parts in the eyes and the chest, some silver injection inside of that gem, which will be attached into the chest later on. The red on the waist you could have left off, as well as the white up on the shoulders, but I didn't want to be removing and adding parts later on, so this is kind of the easiest way to build the inner frame. It is rock solid. Again, the upper thighs do rely on the armor to hold together entirely, so they are just kind of teetering on there a little bit, but it's still solid overall and a great foundation for the armor to attach onto. It looks great. The only actual part that isn't just functional aspects for armor to attach onto is the calves. I'm assuming you're going to be seeing some of this internal detail when you do the leg transformation and split gimmick later on, but overall looking great. We've got those machine cannons up in the shoulder, nicely molded, and overall this is incredibly impressive, especially the legs on this. Anyway, we might as well get the armor packed onto it. So now getting that armor layered on, and we start off with the foot. So we've got red sections that sandwich down from above and below. Around the heel, 2 pieces of red. So we've got some nice grey from the inner frame popping on through. And then we've got the white of the front of the toe, which pops on, and some ankle armor in light grey on the sides. Finally, we get to lock that upper thigh into position with this light grey armor, so you could kind of consider this part of the inner frame. 2 bits of white armor. These are asymmetrical for both legs, so they're different for left and right. They pop on from the sides. Some more light grey color separation on the knee and the shin. And these nice, almost cage or structural looking elements that pop on just around the calves, looking incredible. Some more pure white armor attaches onto the back of the leg perfectly. Knee armor attaches on and then gets locked into position by some grey up above. The calf armor then pops on over the calves just like so. Kind of sad to hide all of that detail inside. We've got a bit of white armor on the front, and then we've got a little bit of a flap around back, which gets locked into position by a bit of ankle armor. And that brings us to this right here. So the leg looking absolutely phenomenal. A nice knee moving aspect. Ooh, something actually jumps out in the back there when you bend the knee too. Whoa. Yeah, we need to see that again. So you bend the knee and that armor just separates out like so. That is insanely cool. This is the segment that opens up as part of the transformation. So that looks so mechanical and cool. Very nice. Real great, definitely taking it to the next level with that. Anyway, just popping on the foot like so, and that is one complete leg. And there's the second one. So as you can see, they're slightly asymmetrical up towards the top, but otherwise extremely similar. Getting the waist unit armored up is super simple because it's mainly mechanical parts as opposed to armor. So that is just this cover for over the base adapter hole, which is in the rear skirting, pop on the skirting armor around back. It is really nice that we've got some grey parts popping on through, a little bit of a splash of colour with the red side, and then it's the two front skirting armors in pure white, matching and bouncing so well with that light grey, and then finally the central armor thruster section. And this right here is what we get, looking absolutely beautiful. So next up in here we have the torso, and this is pretty much everything done already. There's just a couple of bits to throw on. When it comes to armoring up the torso, just a red piece from underneath, just like so. We've got two tiny little blue flap sections for underneath these vents in the chest. They slide in from the side simply like this. The back pops on like so. The front blue armor attaches on like this. Then you attach in that gem into the chest. But big worry, this likes to flip the other way around, so make sure not to push it in like this or it may be hard to get out. Lastly, then we've got the two sections for over the machine cannons in the shoulder, these big old flap parts, and this is it complete. Definitely very, very nice. So we do have those little opening segments in the chest which just pop open just like so. And we do have the machine cannons now up in the shoulders which open like this. And then the machine cannons can just flip out over just like so. That's pretty damn cool. So getting into armoring up the arm now, the only thing that's a little bit on the awkward side in this kit is the knob layout on the upper arm armor. So this is an all-encompassing kind of part that goes the whole way around the arm, which does mean the seam lines and those knobs are right on the surface. So even if you just snip these off, you're always going to get some kind of a knob and a line too. So that is a little bit on the awkward side instead of splitting it into two parts. There are a couple of raised parts on the outer side of this, which makes it a little bit more cumbersome. You can't just kind of get in there with the glass file and get it all one and done. So you do have to kind of work around things a little bit. So probably the only thing that kind of does slow down and kind of destroy the straight build of this kit ever so slightly. Now moving through the armor, we have to build some more of the shoulder armor. First off, we've got this little vernier right here. So this can move up and down inside of the shoulder, which is very nice. And the way the shoulders move together on this particular kit is absolutely phenomenal. So we attach these two segments like this so you can see this is the arm shoulder joint, and we've got multiple layers to the shoulder like you'd expect with Wing Zero. We finish up that sandwich of grey parts. We've got a blue section, slots on in and down like so. Some light grey armor slots just underneath the vernier like so. You shift that down, up, and that closes up just like so. It all finishes off then with the red and yellow sections that are at the front of the shoulder armors, which look just like this when complete. From there on, it's just armoring on all of the armor pieces, just like so. Simple, effective, white and blue. And then we attach that shoulder onto the arm just as it was before, looking incredibly Wing Zero-ish. Unique Gundam color pattern, definitely. Next up then we do have the head. Again, armoring this up is simple. You just pop the muzzle onto the front, the mohawk section up top, both sides of the head, both of those Gundam ears followed by the V-fin, and it is complete. This right here is what we've got, and it's absolutely beautiful with color separated eyes. If you do want these to pop a little bit more, there are foil stickers to make them a little bit shinier, but it's always nice just to have those nice, clear effects in there. And there we go, there's the real grade Wing Zero pretty much complete. Of course, there is the wings yet to be done, which are absolutely huge. And I will mention I did forget the little red Gundam beard there a second ago, but I did find that and just popped it on. Anyway, onto those wings. So when it comes to the backpack, the build here is absolutely intense. When I say there's almost the same amount of building in just the backpack alone that there is in your average high-grade Gundam kit, I am not lying. And the engineering is so much nicer. These open up in the nicest possible way. There's ridiculous amounts of detail inside of them and a lot of moving thruster aspects as well. Overall, incredibly cool. When it comes to building up the backpack, first off you attach this little segment in like so, two joints with rotating axis attached down into these parts and they sandwich together. Then you take these parts and attach them via sliding downwards onto the backpack. Now it says to do this right now in the build, not later on. Not sure if it actually locks on and stays on, but we're about to find out. We attach on this moving little flap section right here, very nice. And this little section then attaches in from the back, which seems to lock it on in. We drop two of these almost little thruster looking doodads in here. And then you attach that on to the backpack just like so. So yeah, it does seem to end up locking on to the back of Wing Zero. Finally then, two verniers attach onto the back of Wing and they can move upwards and downwards just like so. So very, very nice. From here we've got some seriously cool design thrusters. You have to add 4 of these flaps onto a collar-like section. put this pistony aspect down inside of this cuff that attaches onto that kind of vernier we built from flaps a second ago. This all attaches then inside of a large outer section, and then you throw a vernier in the end like this. And that right there is the vernier in the end of this kind of opening flap situation right here. That's pretty cool. This is all rigged up to this little segment right here. So if you do actually just turn this, you'll see that this whole vernier just opens up like that. That's pretty cool. So from here on out, it's just layering on more parts. We've got a joint up top, some armor, some light gray and white armor around the bottom. Next up, we've got some absolutely fantastic arm joints for the actual binder outer sections. These are made up of 4 parts a piece and then attach on into a recessing aspect on the side of the main thruster. Next up, you build the joint that attaches the wing onto the backpack. This is almost like your standard knee joint or elbow joint you'd see on a Gundam, just bigger. And then you build up the binders themselves, which have a fantastic, massive, detailed gray segment. White armor attaches on, followed by blue, yellow, and light grey. So in order to finish this off, first off you attach the joint in, which will attach it into the backpack. It's this large one, nice, beautiful. And then the actual binders attach onto these fantastic joints right here. And then the wing binders attach onto these ball joints right here. This can be a little difficult to line up. I find it best to actually just pull the whole thing out like so, and then they just pop in like a ball joint like that, and then recess then down and onto the side. So nice. These then just pop on into those segments on the backpack. There's number 1, and there is number 2. So that right there is pretty much the Wing Zero itself complete. So finally right here is the real grade Wing Zero complete, and this is an absolute beauty. Now this is it just straight built, nothing extra done. Now I do have it on the stand here because it is a little bit back heavy because there's a lot going on inside of these binders around back. It's not just beautiful color on the outside, we've got fully functioning cool thrust. Well, they're not fully functioning. No actual thrust comes out of them, but you know what I mean. They've got cool gimmicks going on inside. The separation of white into light grey and pure white on the legs is absolutely phenomenal. The gem in the chest with that little sticker in the middle, plastic silver color in behind as well, means this overall is just one hell of a beauty. Anyway, there it is spinning just so you can see what it does look like from every angle, and all I can say is I am so impressed by this. The proportions, the overall look, the sculpt of the head, actually the sculpt of absolutely everything is amazing. The only issue I'm actually having with this kit is something really strange, and that is the cockpit hatch just will not stay closed. It just keeps on popping open, so I'm probably going to have to stick a bit of blue tack or something in there to hold it in place. Odd. You think to be a little bit of a mechanism or something to hold it in? Maybe something's up. I'll take a closer look a little bit later on. The details on here, again, phenomenal. Face looking great, gem in the chest looking insane, and all those little details, the color separated white, phenomenal. And there's a little bit of a side-by-side for you. I can't see this right now because I will be doing it in post, but that of course is the inner frame on the left and the fully armored up Wing Zero then on the right. So overall this is an absolutely beautiful kit with armor and without. Now there is only really detailing on the calf inner frame, not really much of the rest of it, but actually taking a look at it in the hand right now, I think you could actually build inner frame of the thrusters as well. You may need a bit of blue on the back in order to actually mount the backpack onto it, but there's a lot of actual inner frame as you can see right here inside, and that is all grey parts linking right on into a grey backpack into the back. So you might be able to build that too if you wanted to have a kind of skeletal version beside it to kind of look like it being produced or under maintenance. So next up in here we've got the pair of twin buster rifles. In order to build this, you build the lower barrel by sliding this grey section in underneath this yellow segment. You then slot the actual barrel into this, and a locking section from above keeps it in position. Moving on to the side of the rifle then, you add on this section up top, slide the barrel we just built into it, then you pop in some of the moving parts including a handle, mounting point for attaching 2 of these together, and then the other side. Next up we attach this tiny little piece in here, but I didn't actually do it for obvious reasons, because if I'm doing it on camera, the chance of losing it is super high. And finally we got this little yellow section for up top, and this right here is what we get in the end. So mainly in grey, as you can see there are 2 shades of grey on here. As for moving aspects, we have a fold away handle and this awesome cool real great exclusive moving of the barrel like so. Of course both of these can pop together side to side like so for the twin buster rifle. So last up in here then is the shield, and this builds up very impressively as well, and it does have some mechanisms including this extension mechanism inside of it. First off, you run this grey long section through this white part right here for the tip of the shield. This flips up in a very cool kind of mechanism like so. You attach on the two yellow fins, which are cogged, so the teeth attach in together, so these move together, and it all locks from underneath with a bit of light grey. You slide this up a big, large grey section. Take this large white section, attach two of these grey segments into the side, which are for attaching on the twin busters when it's in bird mode. Pop on the part we just built. Add that nice clear green into the front. Some red armor on top, a little bit of red section here, followed by some yellow armor on top of that. Finally then we've got a little bit of a mechanism we build up out of two joints, which then keyholes into the back of this just like so. Overall, this is incredibly nice. And finally, that right there is it for the video, and this right here is the real grade Wing Zero in all of its glory. This kit is an absolute masterpiece. Now, I'm not sure just what level of masterpiece yet until I go through the full review, but from what I've experienced so far, the build was phenomenal. If you think of the real grade Gundam 2.0 just not being a RX-78-2, this is kind of what this build is like. The weaving of parts together throughout it was exceptional. It was so fun to build, and it was so perfect once finished. It's rock solid, besides that one cockpit that keeps hanging open on me. I don't know what's going on there, and just everything about it is perfect. Posing this up feels phenomenal. What blows me away the most about this kit is the legs and those wing binder thrusters around back. The legs have so many moving, intricate parts, they're solid. On top of that, there is a transformation inside of them, which is shocking considering just how good this feels in robot mode, but it really is the wing binders around back that steal the show. These pose so fluidly with the robot itself. When it does come to Gundam model kits, wings can really make or break a kit. A lot of the time they're just kind of window dressing, sometimes they look very nice, but rarely do they move so fluidly with the kit like they do here. No matter what pose I put them in, no matter what way I pose the wings when it's in a pose, they always look absolutely astronomically cool. They feel great, there's so much going on. I thought these would be something like what we saw in the real grade Tallgeese, but whoa. This eclipses the real grade Tallgeese's wing binders entirely. They're beautiful, fantastic, the overall thing is an absolute masterpiece. I'm not sure it's a bit premature at the moment, but I'm almost of the mindset to say that this, for me, is the real grade that is going to dethrone the real grade High New Gundam as the king of real grades. And this is a small Gundam at that. Wing isn't a big kit, so they've packed so much into something so tiny. Every angle, it looks beautiful. Feels great all the time. It's a masterpiece. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for the review. I'll get that done as soon as possible. I got this kit right here through Hobby Link Japan. Link is down there in the description. And as always, I will see you next time. It wouldn't be the end of the video without special thanks to each and every single one of you guys for watching my videos, and special thanks to the channel members and the members over on Patreon, including Caleb, Engelhardt, Joe, RG 59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.